Hello everybody and welcome to the 13th and last lecture of MIA 320. In this lecture we are going to continue talking about section focused on managing the impact of engineering, and we are going to talk about sustainability. We already talked about risk, ethics, Occupational Health and Safety Act, and we are going to finish this section and this course by talking about sustainability. Here I just put a slide to show the basic idea behind the sustainability. We are going to talk about the different definition of sustainability, but I just want to give you a little bit of understanding, which I'm sure you already know and understand it, but as a part of the course we are going to continue talking about it because it's a word that you've heard a lot in media, news. So sustainability is a topic that you heard a lot about it. So there is a planet, just like one planet that we know that people live on, but at the same time we know that everybody, in terms of individually and as a country, they want to improve. You can't find any country on the earth that wants to have lower economical growth than another country, or you can't find any country that is fine with having high unemployment rate. So prosperity, basically every society and country in the world is looking for prosperity. But the problem is to go from point A, which is like the current situation, like economical situation of a country, and point B, which is prosperity. There are many ways of going from point A to point B. Which one is better for people and the planet? So that way will be the most sustainable way of achieving to economical growth and prosperity. Basically, that's the idea about the sustainability. We want to improve, but in a sustainable way, in a way that we improve economically, we get to better or a more prosperous society, but at the same time take care of some resources or keep them for next generations. Here you see that there are different definitions of sustainability. I put it here, but I just want to focus on the Earth Charter in 2000. The Earth Charter is mentioning that the definition of sustainability to include the idea of a global society focused on respect for nature, universal human right, economic justice, and a culture of peace. So if we want to add this to the a big idea of sustainability that I just talked about, you see that prosperity is not the only goal. How you are going to divide that prosperity between your people is important as well. So you don't want to, for example, in the case of a country, you just don't want to increase the GDP. You also need to think about GDP index, if you remember about it, which was focused on the income disparity between different people in a society. Okay, so of course increasing GDP per capita, or it's important for all the governments or states around the world. But how about economic justice, decreasing the the Gini index while you are increasing GDP? The other stories is like about you might ask that we are engineering students, why we need to be be concerned about the universal human right. There are other people that work on that subject. Let me just focus on my math and physics, and focus on my chemical engineering subject, mechanical engineering subject, computer science. But when we are speaking about the universal human rights here, for example in the Earth Charter, let's say education, technologies related to education, because for example maybe I'm a educator, I'm a teacher, I'm a very good one, but I still need help of a computer scientist if I want to create a platform to help my students, or create some kind of platform to help all the students in South Africa. Okay, the majority of you came from Pretoria high school, very close to University of Pretoria, and so you know that high school, if I'm not mistaken, is famous for having a very good teachers, but not all the South Africans, they have this opportunity to have access to a very high quality teachers. So for example, if that teacher wants to create some kind of platform that everybody in even a small area in South Africa have access to the material that he is teaching, he can't do it alone, so he needs engineers. Okay, so sometimes the idea should come from engineering perspective. Just look at websites like edX or Coursera that you can I'm sure you've heard about them. So what happened is they created that platform. After that, they went to universities, like big universities in the United States, and they said that we have created this platform. Would you like to bring your courses and offer it online? For some people we charge, and for some people just free to go through it. So the technology or idea first came from engineering, and after that was used by educators. Okay, so that's a reason that we need to understand those concepts. Okay, so we can't say that because we are engineers we don't need to be aware of all those effects of technology and engineering work on the society, which basically this course is focused on. Here I just put in this slide three different aspects of the things that we talked about: economic, social, environmental aspects, and sustainability is in the heart of all. Okay, so for example, when we are speaking about sustainability, it doesn't mean that we are trying to impose this idea that economical growth is not important. No, but economical growth is important, but some social and environmental aspects needs to be taken into some aspects need to be taken into consideration, and that's the reason that there are different viewpoints, especially among developing countries. Developing countries, they some of them, not all, because I said that different viewpoints. Some developing countries, they are saying that no, we cannot slow down our economy just because of like social or environmental concerns. Why? Because we started with a very good speed. We don't want to slow down the growth of our economy, but at the same time, if you look at England, but they didn't take care, or they didn't think about the environment when they started the Industrial Revolution. So when now that they are rich countries, or they reach to the point that they don't need very fast economical growth, now they are imposing on us as a developing countries to take care of environmental or social impacts. But another viewpoint says that unfortunately, developing countries, even though they are not responsible for the majority of impacts or negative impact on the environment, all are the countries that they are paying for it. For example, if you are living in, let's say, South Africa, and you haven't produced compared to UK, amount of carbon dioxide, but you are going to be impacted more than British people now. Why? Because of environmental effects or global warming. So the problem is, another country does something, but the countries that they are going to be impacted by the consequences of global warming are not necessarily the countries that they contributed more to the carbon dioxide. Just look at US, look at China, Russia, Japan, India, the biggest producers of carbon dioxide in the world. But are they the countries that they will receive the highest consequences of global warming? No. Okay? So that's another perspective. So we are just like in this slide, I just showed you a link to a documentary about sustainability. It's a very good documentary, but as I mentioned previously, because we don't have enough time, I can't show it here. It's around 40-45 minutes. I really suggest you to go through it and watch it. Will give you a very good understanding of the sustainability. Next slide shows that, as we mentioned, about two different viewpoints. One viewpoint, I told you that especially in developing countries, they said that we shouldn't care about the social impact or environmental impact. We need just to focus on economical growth now, and later when we reached to the level that we are satisfied with in terms of like a GDP or economical growth, after that we can think about those impacts and try to address it. The other viewpoint is saying that no, we need to stop everything and make everything based on social and environmental impact. We should not do anything until we are sure that everything is good for environment, or is studied in terms of like social impact of it. So it's always there is another way of between, like a balancing between taking care of the environment and at the same time making sure that the economy is on its way to growth. Here in this slide I just mentioned some of the a different definition of sustainability by different entities, from the United Nations to Environmental Protection Agency in US and the Environmental Affairs of South Africa. But what I want to focus is the UN one and Brundtland report. I'm just going to read it. Development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. Okay, so that's another aspect to it. So if I want to give you one example is Indonesia or Malaysia, because they are one of the biggest producer of palm oil in the world, that uses a lot in soap, in cosmetic products, and lots of other products related to skin protection or things like that. But there are many concerns that because of high demand for those kind of products in the world resulted in over harvesting of the palm oil in these two countries. At the same time, it's good for their economy because they are producing something that the demand is going high, but at the same time, to address the high demand in the a global scale, they are losing their basically jungles. Another example, Brazil. So why? Just think about that. If we go to Brundtland report, development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generation to meet their own needs. So is it possible when you let's say damage the environment severely or permanently in a way that the future generation cannot use it? So it can't be considered as a sustainable development. Why? Because you are already putting some kind of policies that will make the life of next generation much harder. So you are risking their life for short gain of very fast economical growth in a short period of time. Because of that, the United Nations, together with all the countries around the world, came to this understanding that we need to have some common goal, that everybody in the world knows that what is the sustainable development and how they need to work towards that or try to achieve it. So they introduced the 17 goals, which they are called SDG, or Sustainable Development Goals, or United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, or UN SDG. And by these 17 goals, they try to cover all the important aspects of developed society. A developed society, what needs to have, and of course in a sustainable way, to get to that point in a sustainable way. But you might say, let's just like go through it or scan through it. We are not going to talk about all of them, but let me just like scan it. No poverty. Okay, you might say that, okay, no poverty, no engineering. Zero hunger, no related to engineering. Good health and well-being, it's not engineering, it's just like doctors. Quality education, so it's related to educators. Gender equality, not my problem. Clean water and sanitation, okay, that does make sense, it's related to engineering. Clean energy, okay, related to engineering, that's fine. 8, again, decent work and economical growth, no, it's not my problem, it's economies, government. Industry, innovation, infrastructure, okay, somehow related to engineering. If you look at that, you might feel that some of these sustainable development goals are not related to what engineers do or what you think should be the responsibility of an engineer. But I'm afraid to say that it's wrong. Why? Let me give you two examples. First, let's say we want to decrease the hunger and bring it down to zero. It's a big mission, but is it possible? Yes, but you know, zero hunger is a very big statement, especially in Africa. Why? Because it's not just about the hunger that we are talking about. We are talking about the impact of global warming and at the same time very high population growth. So African countries, Africa as a continent, has the highest population growth in the world in percentage. So what does it mean? It means that something has to be changed in order to be able to feed these people. Why? Because if we want to do exactly the same, like using the same technology, using the same method to do the agriculture, we won't be able to produce for our population. Why? Because the population is growing very fast. So how we can increase the harvest? The country has a very every country has a border, so you can't extend the country's land to say that, oh no, we have more land. You also cannot cut all the jungles and transform them into agricultural sites. So what you need to do, you need to increase the productivity. How you can do it? Technology. That's the rule of engineers. Technology, tools. Another aspect to it, water. So you want to increase the productivity, but at the same time you do not have access to the water resources that you had 20 years ago. So now what you are supposed to do? Again, technology or engineers needs to come and help. But if engineers do not think that is their responsibility to think about that they have a role to play to decrease the number of hungry people in their country, these sustainable development goals will not be successful. Okay, so it is the engineering responsibility. The other example is sustainable cities and communities. So let's talk about electric cars. Okay. So we know that we talked about it in section focused on air pollution, that cars are a source of lots of pollutions, like creates lots of problems. But of course, some people came with this idea that okay, maybe internal combustion engine was okay for 30 years ago, 40 years ago, but now we need to move on and try to think about a new technology. So they said that okay, electric cars, but still we are using the same technology as your cell phones, for like older technology for batteries. So they are heavy, they are not as efficient as they should be in order to make them very good. So if you are a chemical engineer, for example, it's just like an example, and you work on battery, and you come up with some ideas about increasing the capacity of the batteries. Yes, it is scientific work, but at the same time, you help your society to achieve this SDG number 11, which is focused on sustainable cities and communities. Okay, so that's like a kind of a way of thinking that I want you to have. Everything that you do has impact on the society. Okay, so we need to decrease or negative impact of the design or product that we produce, and try to increase the positive impact of what we do. This there is another video that speaks about United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, but specifically in the case of Papua New Guinea, and it's a very interesting video, but it's very short. I think it's around 3 minutes or so. Please watch this video as well. It will give you a very good perspective of UN SDGs. I just want to show you some other information regarding some of those SDGs goals, because first time when I went through it around 5-6 years ago, those numbers were very interesting for me, that I didn't know that, and I would like to share those information with you as well. So for example, here, if you remember, we talked about SDG number 6, which is focused on clean water and sanitation. We progressed. There is no doubt about it. As like a human being, every day we are improving, but still we are talking in 2020. This information here is for 2017, but we can say that it's more or less the same. 2.2, let's say 2 billion people. 2 billion people lack safety managed drinking water. It's like first time when I saw that number like 6 years ago, it was shocking to me. You have access to everything, and just think, okay, so 8 billion people on Earth, 2 billion. It means that 25% of the population of the world, they don't have access to the safe drinking water. 4 billion people lack safely managed sanitation. Almost half of the population of the world. So if I come up with some ideas that I can address those kind of problems, just think about that, how many people on earth you can help with. So for example, how I can help desalination. Maybe desalination project can be helpful for some rural areas, especially in sub-Saharan Africa. But we know that desalination is good technology but very expensive, high maintenance. So how you are going to expect to install one desalination units in a country that first they can't afford, and at the same time that area is far from the capital or any big city that engineer can go or maintain that site for them. How about a smaller, simpler technology? If we can come up with some kind of solution for it, it means that we can impact or change the life of 2 billion people. So those just like numbers, just keep it in mind that those are really interesting for me. And the other one that I would like to speak about is SDG number 7, which is focused on affordable and clean energy. Here you can see that around 800 million people lack electricity. So it's a little bit, the situation is better than drinking safely managed drinking water and sanitation, but there's still 800 million people. When we are saying that they lack electricity, it means that education will be difficult for them. They don't have access to electricity, internet, lots of other things that are related to electricity. And at the same time, on the right hand side, you see that in 2017, even though there are lots of investment around the world, still we are just producing around 17, not even 20, 17% of the energy that we use from renewable resources. So that's something that we need to think about, coming up with some kind of like ideas how to improve it. And is there any way, for example, here I can say that, okay, 4 billion people, if I want to compare it with the previous topic that I talked, 4 billion people, they don't have access to a safely managed sanitation. Okay, but out of that 4 billion people, now I'm just saying that maybe just 800 million of those people, they don't have access to electricity. So 3.2 billion people, they have access to electricity, but they don't have access to sanitation. Is there any way that I can come up with some kind of like a solution for that problem? Is important one. That's a reason why researcher at Imperial College of London working on that. It's like looks funny, but their project is focused on new generation of toilets in a way that can be used the waste as energy resource, but at the same time uses less water for flushing or cleaning. So there are other things as well, like zero hunger and education as well. But education is something that I would like to talk about it, because it is widely accepted that education is base of society. If you don't have a well-educated society, it will be very difficult for a country to prosper. But how us or engineers we can help to improve the situation in the society that we are living? Because some of the times you can just like follow, so you can be follower in the world. You say that, okay, we don't really need to be the pioneer in the world. We can just like follow what has been done in US or China or Japan or I don't know, Sweden or any other countries. But how about the education? Because we are not talking about a university level, about high school. We know that the South African educational system is not one of the best. So can I follow, for example, the example of, let's say Sweden? How I can follow when they don't have the same problem? So when they don't have the problem, so they don't do anything to sort it out. So the long-term solution always is that, okay, first you need to invest in terms of infrastructure to build good environments in terms of like schools. Again, you need to invest in terms of like educate people to be good teachers. You need to again invest, send them to the communities that they came from, and after that they put effort, and it takes like a generation. After 25-30 years or so, you will get a very good educational system that works for you and for your country. But how about the short-term solution? Is there any short-term solution? Can you wait 25 years to this problem to be sorted out? No. Here is the role of engineers to come up with some kind of solution or new thinking about the education and come up with some solution. For example, let's say in 10 years time, not or 20 years time, one of you become some kind of like a big person in telecommunication industry, like CEO of Vodacom, for example, or Celsi, or kind of another companies. So if you don't have this mentality of based on the society, you won't see the necessity of helping the society when you can. Maybe you, at the moment, since you are an engineer, and you are just a student, you don't have enough power to change something, but you need to keep this mentality in a way to have impact when you can. Okay, so that's a reason we are talking about these topics throughout this semester, especially on MIA 320. The other topic that we can consider in terms of like a sustainable development is about the market pool. We know that if we want just to focus on one of the issues is about the awareness of consumers. So maybe it was not the case that 20 years ago, but now you go to a big supermarket, always you see that there is a dedicated section for I don't know, green product, or how they call it, or organic products. the products that were produced without using any fertilizers. So we talked about fertilizer and how they can be pollutant in terms of like water, soil. So but it was not the case 20 years ago. But now you see that people, even though it's a little bit more expensive, they are willing to pay for it and buy organic products, not just because of their health, but at the same time because in the process of producing those products, the environment was not damaged. Okay? Just look at this map or a slide. It shows a little bit regarding the lifetime cost per energy unit in South Africa. As you can see, compared to coal, actually solar or wind energy, there are cheaper as well. But if you look at that, the net capacity factor, you see is like 82%, 92%, 50%, 50%. But if you look at those numbers, 1.03, 0.62, 0.62. Okay, so in terms of the cost, the solar PV are much cheaper than coal, but at the same time we talked about the stationary resources and how they can be how they can damage the environment. We talked about their air pollution, we talked about the water pollution that they can cause. Okay, and sorry I talked more than 40 minutes, but those topics that we talked in this lecture, the majority of them, they are so diverse and that it's very difficult to cover them in 40 minutes time, but I tried my best to give you as much as information as I can in a short period of time. And I hope at the end of this semester you learn something, and I hope that I provided you with some kind of information in a way that you see engineering science differently. Engineering is not just about correlations, it's not just about mathematics, it's not just about physics, it's not just about core technical subjects. It's about the society, helping the society and how you see it as well. And with this lecture, basically we are finishing MIA 320. Good luck with the exam, and hope to see you guys later for another course in the Department of Mechanical Engineering. Bye bye.